Good morning. This is Matt Sexton with the Florida Department of Transportation's CAD office, and welcome to FDOT Connect 1012, part of our ongoing series of webinars on hot CAD topics. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to enter them in the Q&A portion of the dialogue. The team will be doing our best to answer these questions in real time, and I'll take a few moments at the end of the webinar to review any unanswered questions. If your question is not answered during the webinar, it will be compiled into a list of questions and answers that will be posted to our website along with a recording of the webinar. If you experience any issues with audio during the webinar, the easiest way to resolve them is to log out of the webinar and log back in. Make sure to check your audio settings in the process, as we don't have any control over the audio. Getting started, on September 15th, the FDOT CAD office published our initial release of FDOT Connect 10.12. The FDOT Connect 10.12 software is certified for use with Bentley Connect Edition applications of the 10.12 variety. It's Open Roads Designer, Open Bridge Modeler, Open Bridge Designer, MicroStation Connect Edition, and Pro Structures. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. What is FDOT Connect 10.12? If you saw my presentation at the most recent FLUG, or if you've been using FDOT CAD software already, you already know that FDOT Connect 10.12, or the FDOT Workspace, is our collection of resources and applications for use with Bentley Connect Edition applications to assist in the FDOT design process. The FDOT software creates launch shortcuts on the desktop and in a desktop folder for properly launching the Bentley Connect Edition applications that you have installed and accessing the FDOT Workspace. Just wanted to make sure we reviewed that real quick for anyone who's new. As I mentioned before, FDOT Connect 10.12 is certified for use with specific versions of the Bentley Connect Edition applications. This version list can be found on our website and can be accessed by selecting the Current Supported Versions button in Workspace Doctor. And I have a screen cap there of how to find that button. Before installing FDOT Connect 10.12, be sure to thoroughly read the FDOT Connect 10.12 installation guide. It's available on the software downloads page of the CAD office website. This guide provides critical information and step-by-step instructions on how to properly install the FDOT Connect 10.12 software. It is a riveting piece of literature. I would know, I wrote it myself. What's new with installation? Because things have changed slightly for the installation of both Open Roads and the FDOT software. It's subtle, but it's new. The installation process for FDOT Connect 10.12 has been simplified. I'd like to briefly cover the correct sequence for installation, as some things have changed. Just like previous versions of our software, the first step is to install the Bentley Connect Edition application or applications of your choice. You should be aware that these applications now feature a checkbox on the final page of the installation dialog. This checkbox is enabled by default, and it causes your application to launch immediately when you select Finish. Because of the way the Bentley Connect Edition custom configuration works, it's critical to uncheck this checkbox before selecting Finish. It's also critical not to launch your Bentley Connect Edition application before completing the installation and configuration steps for the FDOT Connect 10.12 software. If you do, the custom configuration will not be available in the backstage, and you will not be able to select the FDOT workspace. I'm going to discuss that more later and also teach you how to work around that. After installing your Bentley Connect Edition application or applications of your choice, the next step is to install FDOT Connect 10.12, whether that is a standalone workstation or a client server installation. Finally, run Workspace Doctor and select Configure before launching FDOT Connect 10.12. Again, I'll discuss this more later. But what's new with our apps and resources? All of the FDOT applications, tools, and resources have been updated for compatibility with Bentley 10.12 applications. And all of the tools and resources have been thoroughly tested to ensure proper updated functionality with the new Bentley software. The Create File tool has been updated. We've added the new Florida coordinate system, and we've made some minor cosmetic fixes. I believe there was a county that the name was spelled wrong, and we have fixed that. I think it was Lafayette County. A quick reminder to all of the CAD support folks that if you put it in the notes, when you check in the file, it does end up in the release notes. Okay, the FDOT traffic plan tools have been updated with resource updates, some minor fixes, and interface enhancements. These updates include the FDOT sign tool, pavement marking tool, and signal design tool. Those are the ones that have been updated with those items. The light pole data manager has also been updated to check for uncommitted changes before exiting. So that is a new feature, a new functionality for the pole data manager. Quantity Takeoff Manager has been updated with modifications to enhance project-specific pay items. Also, quantity totals are now calculated by summing up the rounded pay item totals rather than summing up the raw values. The Summary Reports Manager has additional project-specific pay item functionality and the ability to be launched inside your Bentley Connect Edition application, such as Open Roads Designer. The release notes specifically say Open Roads Designer, but OBM and OBD presumably as well. There's a new admin mode for internal management. Summary Reports Manager also sorts the pay items on save and has additional fixes for issues like the file open location issue that had been reported, and it saves the report column headings to the report definition XML now. Much like Summary Reports Manager, the Pay Item Editor can now be launched inside the application. There is also a new enhanced admin mode that we've made some interface enhancements to it as well. We do have some resources that function behind the scenes, although at least one of these is interface driven. But we've enhanced and updated and applied minor fixes to some of our MDL applications, such as the on-file open and FDOT CADD common DLLs. We've made some enhancements to the level filters on, off, and the select element by ID and CAD to GIS levels. Largely, these changes were minor fixes in the background, not something that can be demonstrated so much as enhancements to fix some lingering issues. And as far as updated resources, the feature definitions and CAD standards data have been updated in FDOT Connect 10.12. And because of this update, you need to perform an additional two-step update process when bringing in files from earlier versions of the FDOT workspace. I'll be going over that in a brief demo. I mentioned earlier in the presentation that it's critical to fully configure FDOT Connect 10.12 before launching your Bentley Connect Edition application. Fully configure it before launching Open Roads or Open Bridge. And the reason why that is that it reads the configuration variable from a text-based configuration file and writes it to an XML file in the user profile on launch. If the variable is not configured through Workspace Doctor or manually, and you launch Open Roads, it reads the configuration file as being blank and writes a blank XML file. The XML file is what populates your Backstage list of custom configurations and workspaces. When that XML gets created, it can't be just automatically updated. Open Roads is not going to go back and read the config file and update the XML file. It's just there. So as a result, what you have to do to fix that, or the solution to what I like to say is, so you've launched Open Roads Designer before installing FDOT Connect10.12. What you do to fix that issue is you launch Workspace Doctor and you select all of the options, and then you select Run. This is going to get rid of that XML file. Now, don't launch Open Roads just yet. You want to relaunch Workspace Doctor and select the Configure button. This is going to write to that configuration file, which then on launch of Open Roads Designer is going to write to the XML file and populate that XML file for your configurations. And I'm going to demonstrate that during my brief demo. Oh, hey, look at that. What a great segue. And now a brief demo. Let's see if I can figure out how to get out of PowerPoint. Oh, there we are. Okay, so a couple things I'd like to talk about. By the way, that's my cat Eugene. Everyone always asks about him, so he just stays in my presentations. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. Let's stay on that topic of the configuration, because this is new. This is very new. You recall way back, you had to go into the configuration and look. I always pick the wrong one. Did I get the right one? I did get the right one. You used to have to go back into the configuration and select your location, and that was the only custom configuration location. Okay. Now that is not the case, because the custom configurations are located in an XML file. You can have multiple custom configurations, but the initial custom configuration is written into the XML file if this variable has a value. If the variable does not have a value, once again, it makes a blank XML, and you have to manually configure all of your other custom configurations. So for example, let's see if I can break this. I am simulating what it would look like if you installed FDOT Connect10.12 and you had not actually configured it and then launched Open Roads. All right, so we're now back at factory settings. You've installed FDOT Connect10.12. You've installed Open Roads, not in that order. You did it in the right order, but you didn't hit configure. And then you launch, let's launch it with ORD. It is launching on my other screen because of course it would. Okay, you see I have the examples configuration and I do not have the custom configuration. I do not have FDOT. There should be a separate section here. This manage configuration dialog is XML driven. And I'll show you where that XML is. There we go. It's configuration.xml. Let's see. Open with my favorite XML editor, which is Notepad. And you'll see that here's basically the installed configuration, the examples, and it points it to your program data folder, which is where the examples configurations are located. And if we run configure in Workspace Doctor, Something went wrong. Ah, there it is. Oh. I'm stuck. Where's the button? There it is. Okay, anyways, now that I've run that, if we go back to that location and look at that file again, you notice that it's not there. The XML has not been rewritten because I've not launched Open Roads. Second. Everything always goes wrong when you're expecting it to behave slightly differently. Let me look just real quick at something. Because I ran configuration. I think we fixed Workspace Doctor so you can do it in one move. So all you have to do is rerun that configuration. Let's see if that actually worked. This didn't work the last time I did this. Okay, it did not work. Okay, so what you have to do is run the whole process. So you go back over here, Workspace Doctor, do select all. This is going to blow away all that temporary data. Then you launch it one more time and select Configure, and then you can launch Open Roads. Oh, that's neat. I really, really broke it. You know, I expected things to go wrong a little bit, but I have completely bricked my Open Roads. So let's do a little troubleshooting. Configuration setup, we can see that that does not have my variable in there. Why does that not have my variable in there? I don't know. Let's run Workspace Doctor one more time, see if it writes the variable. Okay. Go back to program data. Wow, that's neat. It does not have my variable written in there. Huh. I think I found a random undocumented feature. We'll just pretend that worked. I'll log that after this webinar. Okay, relaunching Open Roads here. And then I'll tell you why I'm going through this whole process, and I'll explain to you the importance of that XML and what's next. Okay, now you see we have custom configuration. And there's our FDOT workspace. So I'm going to go over here. And we'll locate Bentley, Open Roads, okay, and prefs. All right, we're going to open up this configuration XML again. And you can see here we are, that this is custom configuration based on the UStation custom configuration variable. If you were to enter other configurations using the manage configuration dialog, they would end up in that XML as well. I don't have any additional configurations on my system, so I can't do that. But if you did, if you had South Carolina DOT or Georgia DOT workspace or a custom site-specific workspace, you could enter it there. So, all right, let's actually go ahead and open this up and take a look at some of the stuff that's new. Real quick, I'm going to grab a file that's a 1011 file, hopefully. Bear with me just a minute. Okay, so I mentioned that if you've got FDOT Connect 1011 files or FDOT Connect 1010 files, that they need to be updated to obviously the latest schema, just like we've always been doing, opening up the file and saying, yes, please update this to the latest schema. Now, because we've made changes to the feature definitions and because we've made changes to the CAD standards data, you have to do 2 additional steps. This is a slightly manual process currently. I anticipate that somewhere along the way we'll come up with more of an automated batch process, although I'm not promising anything from development. They usually have something fixed before I can even think about it. But hopefully we'll have a less manual solution for you. In theory, if you're any good at writing batch files, you could probably write a batch process to do this yourself, because the old MicroStation batch processor tool still exists. So here we are. This is my 1011 file. It's my design RD. Ooh, that's interesting. That's a fresh install. Okay, anyways, so here we go. It says, do you want to update to the latest release? And the answer is yes. And we wait. Meanwhile, I'm going to check out the questions dialog. We've got a number of questions. Just a second to finish loading all the way. And I want to check and see, make sure I have all of my colleagues here, because we do have questions that I want to make sure we answer. And I'm just going to double check and make sure there's nobody that logged in as an attendee that I need to upgrade to be able to speak. Oh, looks like everybody, all right, the gang's all here. Okay, cool. Okay, the steps for updating, you have to do 2 things. You have to update the feature definitions and the standards data, and you have to do it specifically in that order. Feature definitions first, and then the standards data, or sorry, element templates. So what you do is you go to your element template portion of your dialog under the attributes here and select manage. That's going to bring up this dialog. You select your file and then select update templates from library. And that portion of the process is done. I think it takes a second to do that. Yep. Okay, now the next step. We're going to go to Explorer. There are a number of ways to access Explorer. I'll just grab it right there. Go to Open Road Standards. Fly that open. Right-click on it and select Update Standards from DGN-Lib. This does take a second or two. And there we go. The file is ready to go. Now, I did that rather slowly so that you could see how it's done and sort of digest it in a training scenario. But obviously, you can, as fast as you can click and as fast as it can process, you can knock that out. So, okay. So going over some of the stuff I mentioned in the presentation, like I said, we've had updates to the FDOT signs tool, the pavement marking tool, and the signal design tool. The light pole data manager has also been updated with that functionality to make sure it highlights the potential uncommitted changes before closing. Now, I want to give you a brief rundown of how to find out more detail about the stuff that's new. It's difficult to kind of compile all of the esoteric aspects of it into one presentation. And so let's go over here. And if you go to software downloads and go to FDOT Connect10.12 and select release notes. That's going to bring up the release notes that I based this off of. So what I've been doing every time we have a release is I will go look at the notes that all of the support specialists and developers have made in our file management system, and I'll compile it into this spreadsheet here. So if you have any questions about the tools that affect you, you can look for those tools and see. We've also done some updates to the seed files, especially pertaining to the border cells to make them compatible. And you can see that there's been a number of changes to the variables as well. And I mentioned you have to update the feature definitions and the CAD standards. This is the explanation of why. This will run you through all of the information about what changes we did make and why you have to do that update. Let's take a look at the questions and see what we have for questions. Okay. First question is, are there any known issues in upgrading files from 10.11 and 10.10? No, just that you have to update those feature definitions and CAD standards. Let's see. If there are new pay items in the BOE, how can we make them quantify? Can we add it to the pay items library? Can we attach multiple pay items to a single cell, for example, single cabinet with multiple pay items associated with it? Candy, do you want to talk about that real quick? Take a moment to discuss new items in the BOE and how to manage that.
I already responded in the question.
Oh, okay. I see that.
Yeah, and it's the details are getting written down now. If you have a pay item that's project specific or isn't included in the delivered resources, just send an email to CADD.support and I'll be glad to jump on and help you work through that workflow until I can get it fully documented and posted. I've got a presentation coming up in December that's going to cover the whole process. So if you can wait until December, I'll have it all laid out. If you can't, I'll try to help you through it in the meantime. Anything to do with the traffic tools, adding multiple pay items, that's already in the workflow and in the tools. there is a additional pay item button that's in there in the tools, and you'll need to refer to the traffic plans training guide for that.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah, I did see that you'd answered it, but I appreciate the additional explanation, articulation of that. Okay. Can we install 10.12 parallel with 10.10? Yes. 10.10, 10.11, and 10.12 can all coexist side by side. Bear in mind that I believe you can only have one version of MicroStation Connect Edition because MicroStation itself does not install to different installation folders unless they just change that. We had a problem with someone running 10.09, 10.10, and 10.11 not being able to have multiple MicroStation Connect editions. But Open Roads, Open Bridge, you can certainly have all of those exist. 10.10, 10.11, 10.12 coexisting. Although we do recommend using the latest software if at all possible. I understand that dealing with primes and subs can be a problem when it comes to coordinating on all the software. But I do want to say, as far as coordinating on what version of the software you need to be using, always defer to your district project manager if they want to coordinate on which FDOT Connect to be used. Okay. Does this need to be done for every file, the updates? Yes, it does need to be done for every file, which is why I said it is a manual process, and I do realize that is a bit of a pain. But in theory, it can be automated. And if you know, here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This little tool right here still exists. This is an old MicroStation tool from however long ago. It's the batch processor. And I don't have any training information on how to use the batch processor, but everything that happens inside of Open Roads has some sort of command in theory. So I would recommend looking at the training information for the batch processor. It may not have been updated in a while, but in theory, you should be able to find a command to update the templates and then update the standards. I bet that's possible. So that would allow you to batch process your whole project in theory. So if y'all are interested in me researching that, you can talk to Chris about whether or not I should take the time to research that. Okay. Are files backwards compatible? We've got the answer for that one. No, they are not backwards compatible once they're updated, and this has been the case with the Bentley schemas for a while. Is once you move forward to 10.12, they cannot be opened in 10.11. We have upgraded a 10.11 file to 10.12, but haven't yet upgraded the feature definitions and element templates. Have you seen any adverse side effects not doing it the right way? Chris, can you talk about that, since you're probably a little bit more knowledgeable on that? What happens if you don't do that update? If you don't mind me putting you on the spot.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, you caught me without my headset.
Oh, sorry about that.
I've had this question before, haven't really seen anything. It is recommended though, just to go ahead and do that as soon as possible.
So we're not aware of specifically adverse effects, but it's one of those situations that if you go ahead and do it the right way, you will not discover any adverse effects in the process.
Yeah, nothing necessarily production related, but you may not be getting, if we've updated standards or any BOE pay item stuff, if you don't go through and do that, you're not getting the latest from the release.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got a question. Is the upgrade workflow the same for survey file 2? I would imagine so. I don't have any reason to think it wouldn't be. Okay, is there a full setup of ProStructures configuration included with, oops, hang on, FDOT standard bars, tables, and schedules? I am not fully aware of what's included with in detail with our Pro Structures configuration. We can definitely write a more thorough answer to that in the Q&A document, so I can give you a bit better idea what's in there. Is it correct that the FDOT ribbon is now also located in the drainage and utilities workflow in this version? That's a great question. Let's find out. It is. Right there. And there are your drainage tools, of course. The answer to that is yes. Okay, what is the expectation timeline for using which versions with respect to project status, letting, etc.? I don't think that we have officially put out a memo with regard to that. Now, you know that back in January of 2021, we put out a memo saying that all projects entering design phase after January 1st of 2021 can no longer be in select series and must either be in FDOT Connect or the equivalent Civil 3D platform. But we haven't put out any memos specifically mandating it. I don't know if that's in the CAD manual anywhere, if we have a schedule on that, but generally speaking, what you can anticipate is that the district offices will typically move to the latest version of the software within about 30 days of us releasing the software. And based on that, you're going to start seeing district project managers that will, of course, want you to use the latest software. So always coordinate with your prime and your district project manager has sort of the final word on that. Candy, I see you unmuted your microphone. Did you have something to add to that?
I was absolutely about to say exactly what you said. Check with your district project manager to find out what project manager prefers the project to be delivered in, and definitely coordinate with all consultants, sub-consultants, anybody that is working on CAD files for the project before upgrading, because everybody needs to be on the same version and platform for a submittal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is a good question. I was hoping someone would ask this one because I learned something new last week at FLUG. So see if I can remember how to do this. On installation, if you don't have your Worksets saved on the C drive, but on a network drive, let's say the H drive, so the entire company can access it, before I put the configuration during installation, it asks where the Worksets live. You forget to do that step. Oh, okay. Is there a way to change it? Okay, so I didn't think it was going to be that question. So is there a way to change the Worksets location if you did not set it correctly during the installation? The answer to this question is yes, sort of. And I want to make you aware of why the answer is yes, sort of. One way to do it is you have to do two things. You have to go to your system's properties, go to your environment variables, and locate your Worksets variable. Then you can change the location of that. But after you do that, of course, you have to have admin access to do that. After you do that, you have to go into the registry edit. You have to go into the registry editor. Sorry about that. It blinked up an admin screen for me. And then you have to go to HKey local machine software FDOT Connect and locate this value and change it here in the registry as well. Candy will tell you that I'm one of the few support specialists in the office that is readily willing to dig into the registry to try to fix a problem, because digging into the registry is a great way to turn your machine into an expensive paperweight. Or at least I used to say that. I'm not sure if it's really that dangerous anymore, but yeah, you can change the location of your Worksets folder after the installation. I always recommend just doing it during the installation. If you don't get it right during the installation, doing an uninstall and reinstall is the best way to do it. But yes, if you edit the system environment variable and the registry value for the Worksets location and then perform a restart of your machine, then you can indeed change the location of your Worksets folder. Let's see if someone ends up asking the Worksets question that I was anticipating. You mentioned we cannot downgrade. What does the downgrade DGN do in Open Roads Designer? It's not showing me all these questions. Here we are. In the civil tools, to the best of my knowledge, the downgrading the DGN does indeed downgrade the DGN. I think what we were saying is that once you upgrade a file, you can't open that same file in 10.11. You can, in theory, download it, downgrade it, or remove the schema entirely if you need to open it back up in 10.11. Oh, it looks like Chris answered that. But yeah, information about that, since that's not an FDOT tool, you'll want to look at your Bentley software documentation on that one. Go to the community site or look at the wiki site, because that is indeed their tool, and they'll have more accurate information about the functionality and use of that tool. Do we need to update the feature definitions and template updates in all our design files and all sheets? Yes. Chris got that one. Can you speak to the mentions at FLUG regarding duplicated pay items releasing in the next MR not to be corrected until early next year?
I can talk about that, Matt.
Yes, that would be great, Candy, if you would.
I think what they're referring to are the, I believe it's signpost, or I think it's signpost pay items that were updated to be from, what was it, to each. They used to be per assembly, now they're per each. That is the only difference between the old pay items and the new pay items, and we are getting them rolled into the next maintenance release. I do believe that I already have them in the resources, they're just not in the traffic tools yet. And Randy's working on getting that in there. The guidance that we've gotten from the estimates office is that the old pay items that are the assembly pay items, you can still use them on submittals up until, I believe, either the next maintenance release or until the end of the year, whatever's reasonable on that. Like I said, the only difference in that is the unit of measure. It's still paid the same, so it's not a big deal. We will be getting those rolled in, and if you're getting review comments and need to get it straightened out ahead of time, like I said, I think I've got it in the report definitions and in the computation resources, so you could actually manually change that pay item number, and I believe it will work for you if you manually change that pay item number in the properties. It's just not yet rolled in to automatically place them with the traffic tools, but that will be resolved with the next maintenance release, I believe. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, so we've got a question that I'm going to have to do a demonstration for real quick. Why can't I move that? Because that's open right now. All right. The question is, why can't that move? Hang on. Still having some problems with something. The question is, can I discuss the work set question that I thought I was about to answer? And the answer to that is yes, I can. So I'm setting up a little demonstration. There we go. Okay, so we recommend, and when I say recommend, I mean strongly recommend, that you have your work sets in a Worksets folder, specifically in the FDOT subfolder, and that you have your work set folder with your FPID number, and then you have the corresponding CFG and DGNWS file. Whether that's a local C Worksets FDOT or a somewhere on the server Worksets FDOT, that is what we strongly recommend. But I received about a dozen requests at FLUG for how do I put my projects somewhere else? If I want to have my projects on a centralized location and we put our FPID number folders like 3 folders deep and divide them into a different tree of folders. So for example, if you have, imagine this is a server. Willing suspension of disbelief, I realize it says C drive, but imagine that's a server somewhere. And I've got all of my projects from 2022 and all of my projects from 2023 separated out into separate folders. And then I've got different clients. So this is account number 1 and account number 2. Maybe we're looking at whatever. And then I've got my folder inside of account number 1. Maybe that's how you organize your projects. Maybe not. Okay. So what we want to do, this is specific to each individual project. You can have the project folder anywhere you want to have the project folder, but you still need to have the Worksets folder and the FDOT subfolder somewhere. And in this case, since we're talking about a server, it would be best if that Worksets folder is somewhere on a server. And this is where you're going to set your actual Worksets location value to during installation. You'll have, imagine that's like an S drive, it's a server. S drive, Worksets, FDOT. And that's what you set your Worksets location to be. And then what you do is you take your FPID folders after you create your Worksets in this folder, and you can go to your projects on the server, you go to your 2002, you say this is going to be account number 1 again, and you can put your folders wherever you want to put them. Okay, now are in your account folder structure, and what you have in your Worksets folder set in the manner that FDOT recommends is your CFG files and DGNWS files. Now, Open Roads or Open Bridge will be able to locate that you have Worksets. It'll populate your Workset list because it can find these in the Workset location. But what you have to do from that point is go into the CFG file, and we're going to locate the section that says make changes here, and strike a carriage return so we have the ability to put in a variable, which I believe I have completely forgotten what the variable is, so let's go find it. Just a second to launch Open Roads here. And again, this is one of those things that we don't necessarily recommend doing, but if you're going to do it what we like to call the right way. And you see, it can't find my Workset right now. It sees that I have a list of Worksets, but when I hit browse, it's like, I have no idea where that is. And that's because it's here. And I'm just opening this up so that I can locate what that variable was again, because it's been a week since I did that. This does fall under the category of what's new with FDOT Connect 10.12 because I didn't know how to do this until FDOT Connect 10.12. And you see it's telling me it's already erroring out that it can't find the ITL file. So if you're getting that error and you have a folder structure, this is how you fix that. A lot of problems will happen if you're not working with a standard folder configuration. Okay, almost there. You know, it was loading up very, very quickly when I wasn't in a hurry. Okay. Configuration variables. Search paths. No, let's see. Go Workset. Station Workset root. It's on UStation underbar Workset root. Workset root. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go back to our configuration file. UStation Workset root. All right. Space equals sign space. Now, this is something you have to definitely pay attention to. We are in the 220. So let's go to locate where our actual project is. and come up here, grab the path, select copy. Come back here, put that in there, and then because Windows does not automatically put it in, put an additional backslash at the end of that line. Hit save, close that out. You'd have to do the same thing with your other project, but I'm not going to do that because I'm okay. And then we open that up, and you'll see that we will not get that error anymore. Everything will open up normally, and you noticed how it already knew where to go to get that file. There's someone I was talking to is having problems running quantities or another quantities related process because of folder structure. And when we change that variable in the config file for his work, the issue. Let's see. Sometimes we switch the drive when we work from home or RD to load faster. Is it a problem to be constantly switching the drive location? So if you're switching the drive location, your Worksets location on a regular basis, as long as you're careful with it, I overestimate the danger of digging around in the registry. It's probably fine. So let's see. This installing can be a labor-intensive process when in maintenance. Question about, is it better to wait for a maintenance release because of the installation process being labor intensive? I always say you should load the latest software and move forward, not look back. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think we have an official recommendation on that, but philosophically, I would say stick with the most current version of the software. See, there was something else I was going to talk about here. If I upgrade a file once, if someone else opens a file from the server, they see an upgraded file. Yes, if you upgrade a file on the server, then someone else opens it, it is upgraded. You are good to go. Let's see, couldn't you set the design folder location on the server when creating the work set? Can you do that? Have I missed that this entire time? Let's find out. I mean, that does kind of make sense. Okay, call this 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't see a way to do that. All this functionality is grayed out. Well, okay, what if I do this? We're going to learn something together. No, it's going to default back to that Worksets location. I don't know if that's functionality that we want to add. I think that's something we've locked down with our Workset template. Yeah, does not appear to be able to be done that way. Okay, what other questions do you have? I feel like that was a very good extemporaneous interaction we've had there. I think we've even talked about every single question here. Just double check. Check in the list. Okay. Going down to the end of the list, see if there's anything new. Nope. Okay. Candy or Chris, do you have anything that you'd like to add since we have just a couple more minutes left?
I'd just like to bring to everyone's attention that we do have more webinars coming up between now and the end of the year. In November, we've got OBM workflows for Florida slab beams, and we've got ORD subsoil excavation modeling with templates and core samples. Those two, and actually at the end of November, we have traffic plan tools for Civil 3D. And then in mid-December, I will be going over the new quantities workflows for those custom pay items. I will have all that detailed by then. If somebody needs me to help them out with that before that, please reach out via the CAD.support email. And we hope to see you guys at all of these CAD webinars coming up.
Okay, and once again, here's how you find that. So you go to our main CAD website, and then you look for FDOT CAD scheduled webinars, and that's going to take you right here. And each of these that doesn't already have a video associated with it is here for you to click that link and register. And all of the other ones, this is where you'll find your webinar videos. So one other thing I wanted to go over before we leave is two things, actually. So I mentioned, I really want to make sure everyone gets the right software versions for this. I want to point out once again that if you go to our software downloads page, that's where that link to the current supported ones are. And then the only other thing I want to say for today is that I appreciate y'all hanging out with us this morning, spending an hour with us talking about what's new with FDOT Connect 10.12. Remember, if you want to contact us for support, the best way to get a hold of us is to email cad.support@dot.state.fl.us. That email address is going to send an email to multiple people on the team, which is going to ensure that you get the fastest response. Even if you have a favorite support specialist or know the person that's most likely to have the answer for you, sending an email to the CAD support email address is going to make sure that that email does not get lost in a shuffle of someone's inbox and that everyone is aware of your request. So please do send your emails to CAD support. And we got one more question here. Will the training guides be updated soon? That is one of the projects we are working on. So, okay. I don't have anything else for y'all, so I just want to say have a fantastic rest of your day and thanks for hanging out with us.